What's going on today, guys? I've been out spraying some centipede this morning, so I had to come back and reload my water tank because I used up all my water. But it struck me to talk about centipede grass a little bit. People still ask a lot about centipede grass for some reason. And why am I now standing in my Bermuda yard talking about centipede? Well, because I wanted to come back and fill up my water, and now I got time to talk about it. So stay tuned for some centipede talk. If you're a centipede person. If you're not a centipede person, I'm not, but you don't have to listen. All right, you've heard me say it some, and you've probably heard it. Well, I'm gonna keep these on if you don't mind. You probably heard it in other places that centipede doesn't like nitrogen. True and false. Centipede likes certain kinds of nitrogen. Centipede is not a big fan of nitrogen from urea. And if you do have to use a nitrogen from urea, make sure it's a slow release with preferably a urease inhibitor, or you could even have a XCU is very popular for centipede. Centipede likes an equal nitrogen to potassium ratio. For example, a 15-0-15, a 10-0-10, the 8-1-8 is what I use. The 1 in there brings to attention centipede does not like phosphorus, but the phosphorus in the carbon X818 is there because of the chicken manure. So I'm not particularly worried about that. Using organic nitrogen on centipede from manures and such is okay, but you got to be really careful with how late you apply that, because your release on an organic nitrogen could be, it's just dependent on when the microbial activity turns that organic matter into a form of nitrogen. So it could take a very long time, and what you do not want to do is be fertilizing centipede prior to frost. So what I would do in any, especially like an organic case, if you were using Milorganite or something, which I don't recommend on centipede because it's got a lot of phosphorus in it, if you were doing that, I would cut that off probably in July or early August, because you do not want to have that nitrogen releasing on you going into cooler weather. The potassium is very important in centipede. It loves potassium, so be sure whatever you got, it's got an equal nitrogen to potassium ratio like I talked about. But most fertilizers with potassium are going to be MOP, murate of potash. Murate of potash is salty and contains chlorine. Not good for centipede. So what you want to use, where you want your sources from, an organic source is fine of nitrogen, but you just got to be careful with your timing. But what you want is ammonium sulfate and sulfate of potash. And what's in the 818? Ammonium sulfate and sulfate of potash. So that's excellent. Centipede also likes a good fair deal of iron. Buzzed here. Good fair deal of iron. It gets chlorosis pretty bad. You'll see it turn yellow. That's your sign. And usually we'll bring it out as iron. So those measures are pretty much how I fertilize centipede. And usually my game plan on it is when it's 100% greened up, which usually, but it was not this year, is sometime toward the end of May. I'll go ahead and hit it with the equal nitrogen to potassium ratio fertilizer at about 3/4 pound to a pound, and not quite a pound, half pound of nitrogen. See how that does. If it looks like it needs more later in the summer, I'll go ahead and do one more at a pretty low rate, just not too late in the summer that we're still releasing fertilizer at a frost. Confused? I hope not. Pretty simple, actually. Doesn't require a lot. You'd be fine with that one application, which is what most of them get. And this year we were real slow on green up, So I am just actually getting around to hitting some of them now, and it is almost July. So there you go. And I don't anticipate fertilizing any of those again. So we want ammonium sulfate for the nitrogen and sulfate of potash for your potassium in equal ratios, and you want iron. So there you go, that's your fertilizer. About a ½ pound to 3/4 pound a year is all you need of nitrogen. That's the fertilizer front. Weed control in the summertime, I like to use Celsius. Celsius on centipede. You can remember the Celsius centipede. But to me, that seems to be the most effective and the safest for centipede. And plus, I can go across a wide variety of turfs using Celsius and not worry about damaging any of those. My weed control deal for centipede usually looks like this. In the late summer, I'll usually come at it with, the late winter. I'm starting the first of the year here. My water's running over. Stand by. I'm out of time now, my water's filled up. That's it for the centipede talk. I'll keep going. All right, so usually for weed control, I'll start in the late winter when I got some temperatures in that 50-degree range for a couple of days, 50 and up. I know I can get out and get some effectiveness out of my weed control. I like to use something like atrazine or simazine, old school stuff, kind of fallen out of popularity, and not for everybody. So I'm not saying go out and spray atrazine and simazine on your yard. I'm just telling you what I do. But I'll do an app with atrazine or simazine that time of year, and also add some other kind of ester-based weed control to that, or a sulfonylurea like methylsulfuron methyl. So you could either mix something like change up and atrazine, or methylsulfuron and atrazine is what I do. I was sitting here for a moment reviewing the babble I was doing, and I mentioned spraying methylsulfuron on centipede. 0.33 of an ounce per acre. Spraying methylsulfuron is not for everyone unless you know how to measure out 0.33 of an ounce per acre for a 4-gallon backpack or a 2-gallon hand can. Don't spray methylsulfuron. Insert this in the video now. 0.33 of an ounce per acre of methylsulfuron. That ain't much, folks. You could use a weed control like Speed Zone Southern in centipede. I do that some too. That's fine. You can you can also use stuff called tenacity. Tenacity does okay in centipede. I would usually, if I'm going to tenacity it, which I don't often, would be like in the fall or something. I kind of restrict my tenacity applications for when I'm seeding fescue. And that's 99% of where I go with tenacity. Another break-in after review. Tenacity on centipede. I fooled around with it some last year. It's not all that effective unless you stick something else with it. Take your change up or your Speed Zone Southern and insert you a very low rate of tenacity, and you may get some better results. And tenacity works better to me with follow-up applications in descending rates. So it could be 2 or 3 applications of tenacity, and I start at like a 3 or 4 ounce per acre rate and gradually drop down with each additional application a week or 2 later. So there's your tenacity in centipede insert. It needs a tank mix partner. Tenacity. All right, okay, so that's our wintertime weed control. Then as we roll into summer, a little after green up, you do your fertilizer application, and you can come on with something like Celsius, Speed Zone Southern, change up, something like that. I prefer the Celsius for this time of year. And that's pretty much your weed control. I don't like a pre-emergent on it because prodiamine is a pretty severe root pruner, and centipede roots really shallow, and what'll happen is the stolons will go out and try to attack down roots, and they'll bounce right off of that prodiamine layer. So I find more trouble than good with pre-emergents like Dimension or Barricade in centipede. The late application, the late winter application of the atrazine or simazine is going to kind of act like my pre-emergent in that kind of grass. And so that gets us into summer with our Celsius or change up, Speed Zone Southern, whatever you choose to use. And then maybe in the fall, if I'm lucky, I can get out a straight sulfate of potash application at about 1 pound of AI per thousand on that. So then that would pretty much wrap you up until you go into that next that late winter application. Don't do much to centipede. In fact, the less you do to it, the better off it is. Centipede likes lower pH soils, so it thrives in acidic soils. If you got, you know, an area with pine trees and sandy soils, you're probably in centipede country. It's just not my favorite grass. It's gonna have an apple green appearance, and you can pump it up and get it darker, but you're gonna pay the price for it. It could possibly kill it coming out of next year. It just causes all kinds of problems. I've never been lucky when I got one all fired up and super dark green. There are about 300 billion different varieties of it though, and some have a much better appearance than others. I've got a tiny little patch of some what is that stuff called? Tiff something, some kind of Tifton centipede seed that I had planted here years ago, and one little spot came up, but I dug a hunk out of it, and I'll show you that thing here in a second. What else was I talking about? I'm losing my train of thought. I'm just sitting here babbling for looking on 10 minutes now. I'm looking at my so low pH, don't do a lot to it. Try not to pound it with nitrogen. You can smack it with nitrogen and it'll look kind of impressive for a little while, but don't expect that to last. You'll blow it up eventually. It'll just randomly just pop out and decline. And that's the tough, one of the tough things about centipede. And don't worry so much about the color in it. It is genetically supposed to be an apple green color, a color like a Granny Smith apple. So good healthy centipede is not black dark green, it is bright green. And that's all I can think of right now. If you run up with problems like goosegrass or something like that in centipede, tenacity might be something you'd have luck with getting that out. If it's your home lawn and you can catch it early and you start seeing little goosegrass plants pop up, me personally, if I could stay on it every day, I would cut my losses and get me the tiniest, like a spray nozzle, spray something about yay big around, and go through and glyphosate them suckers, man. Just get them out of there before they cause major problems. That's a hard, that goosegrass is hard to get rid of. You could probably tenacity crabgrass too, but if I had a goosegrass infestation just starting to pop up in a centipede lawn that I could hover over every day, I would probably just cut my losses and glyphosate. Try to strategically glyphosate out just the goosegrass plants and hope that the turf recovers around that area. All right, I'm gonna show you my little Tiff Blair. That's what's called, Tiff Blair centipede. But I mean, you can see it's relatively thick, but just not super impressive on the color. I'm manipulating here. It's bright as hell out here. I can't even see it, but that's what it looks like. See, I forgot to shoot anything while I was in the centipede yards, but there's my centipede shot for you. Let's check out a centipede clump. All right, and here's the centipede clump in contrast to my Monaco Bermuda. It's just not genetically made to perform like that. I mean, it's a real easy grass to take care of, but it can be fickle and it is sensitive to most things you put on it. So if you can deal with those aspects of it, it's great. But I mean, genetically, it's just not gonna get a color like a Bermuda grass. So there's your little compare and contrast. I gotta get this out of here before it pollutes my grass. Now I've sat down, I'm not gonna want to go back out and work. I got to though. All right, well, I got to get out and spray some fungicides on fescue yards now. But that's just my centipede thoughts I was having as I was rolling over. I went and sprayed like a farm house today, like 5 acres of centipede, and I sprayed it with Celsius with the hook surfactant, and I put out 818 at about 3 pounds per thousand, the Carbon Earth X Green. So that is really about all you would need to do to some centipede. So if you can come in the winter time and get something like atrazine, simazine on it and control those weeds out of the dormant grass, and atrazine and simazine have some pre-emergent effects and can help you with future weeds, future seeded weeds. And man, that's really all the control I'd do. And then another app, like I said, this time of year with something like Celsius and a fertilizer app, and you'll be good. Don't expect it to be Taj Mahal grass, though. But when it's full and it's performing, it makes a nice even lawn until it dies. And but don't expect that super color. I mean, it's not made to, and it's not where it wants to be. So just be happy with what color it is. Because the more you try to push it, the more likely you're gonna blow it up, unfortunately. But that's my centipede highlights, I guess. And this is a quick video or some passing thoughts I had. So I go spray fungicides. Oh, there you go, fungicides. This year, it has become very evident that if anybody could have had the future looking glass, everybody would have sprayed their centipede in about October with a fungicide. What happened this year was we went into fall with some large patch, which is pretty much the same thing as brown patch. It's Rhizoctonia in the centipede. But with the centipede actively growing, it was not visual, so you didn't know it was there. Wacky spring, grass coming in and out of dormancy, frost late in the spring. It was very evident that there was large amounts of brown patch or large patch damage in centipede, zoysia, things like that. So it's also a good idea, if you can squeeze it in about October, to get you a fungicide application on your centipede yard. And that would be something like azoxystrobin mixed with propiconazole, or just straight up azoxystrobin, and you'll be golden. Now I think I'm done making centipede comments. But if you have centipede questions, put them in the comments and I will make something up and give you a false answer. I'll try to answer your questions on centipede. All right, thanks for watching, guys.